Whatever the range of temperature where you are, it's important to get out when you're getting into those different extremes so you understand what gear you need to be out in those extremes. Hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and I thought I'd do a video today, short video, just talking about the importance of getting out in the woods when it's really cold. So today it's in the minus double digits Celsius. I don't know if it's minus 11 or minus 12 or whatever. I think it's supposed to get down to minus 19 Celsius tonight. So, I mean, some of you are going to say, oh my God, how can you do that? And others are going to say, that's not cold. I live in blah, 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 north, and I go out when it's minus 40. The point is that whatever the range of temperature where you are, it's important to get out when you're getting into those different extremes so you understand what gear you need to be out in those extremes. So I mean, today it's basically the last few hours of light in the day, and you know, I worked all day and I just had an hour or so, hour and a half basically, to get out in the woods after work before everything gets pitch dark. And that's a great opportunity, very low risk, to test out warmth gear to see how well it works. You know, if you find your digits getting cold, your toes and your fingers, or whatever, your head or your ears, whatever, after that amount of time, you know that that gear is no good for that temperature, and you have to think about, you know, other gear. A really good example is, so I've got two things on here. I've got a mitten and a trigger mitten. Okay, I love trigger mittens. And actually, just a side note on that, these always tend to be expensive. Whatever it costs to get a wool mitten, a trigger mitten costs 50 cents, 50% to 100% more. And so you'll never ever see me wearing two trigger mitts. I always wear one trigger mitt. They're usually, especially if you get these military ones, reversible. That is to say, the same mitt can be worn on the left or right hand. So I buy a pair and I only wear one on my right hand, because that's the hand where you need a trigger for. And the great thing about the trigger mitt is that you can take your finger out of the trigger and put it in, you know, you can put it in the rest of the mitt and give it a break. Now I've got these doubled up. Okay, so I got a glove, right? And then I've got this, I've got a wool glove, 100% wool, or 80, 90% wool, and then this trigger mitt. But even as is, my thumb's okay, and I don't know why it's the case with these trigger mitts, but the finger is always tight. It always seems to be tight. Maybe it's just like I got big hands, but the finger is always tight on my finger, which affects the circulation. So this finger is numb. You can see it. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like more red. I can see it. It's more red than the other fingers. It's really cold. And sure, I've been out here, you know, holding a walking stick, and this, you know, is cold and it sort of draws the heat out of my hand. But the other fingers are totally fine. Everything's fine except this. Is because I spend so much money on different models of these sorts of things, but I find the trigger finger, it's very rare that they have a nice big fat trigger finger. It's always a skinny tight thing. So I mean, I guess the assumption is that you don't have your finger in there most of the time. Like right now, I don't, right? Basically use it like a mitten, and you just, you know, you just pop it in. You can't do that if you're wearing a glove. You just can't. It won't behave that way. But that's the idea, I suppose, is that you just pop it in when you need it. I mean, another option is to just take all your fingers out and have your hand in a fist and wiggle it around. Then you can pop it back in. But again, none of that's expedient. If you're, you know, you want to be able to, if you're carrying a shotgun or a rifle, get your finger in the trigger fast without having to mess around, because you might have only a second or two to get a shot off, right? And you want to be focused on doing that, not frigging around with your mitten. Anyway, getting way off topic here. The point is, I know that at this temperature, I guess it's, I mean, I'll put the temperature up on the screen. I think it's like minus 12, minus 13 Celsius, and no sunlight. Basically, the sun's gone, so it feels colder as well. That having my finger, and I just bought these this year on Amazon or eBay or something like that, having my finger in this thing here when it's minus double digits, it's not going to last. It's going to get cold. So I have to either wear mitts or try a different system, or spend even more money on another pair of trigger mitts. Try to find a bigger, fluffier, heavier pair. This hand feels great. It's absolutely wonderful at this temperature. Just double wool. Wool glove with a wool mitt. Two wool mitts is fine. Okay? And I tend to have a mitt on this hand, right? So that's a good thing to test. I also have this hat on, but I've got a layer underneath, right? So I can cover my ears and just get a little bit more. This here hat is synthetic, and this here is sort of a cotton lycra blend. This is like these things women put their hair in, you know, for like big hair. But I find they really, you know, they don't take up any room, right? Something like this. This is yeah, it's for hair basically. It's like a kind of bandana tube, right? I find them very, even though they're not wool, they're just some sort of, you know, cotton lycra synthetic mix. They're very versatile. You can put it up over your nose if you need like a scarf, because the cold, you know, if you're walking somewhere and all of a sudden it's gotten really windy, you need to protect your skin, you can put them up like this. You can carry a couple spares in your back pocket in case they get kind of nasty from being over your face, you know, from condensation and snot and whatever, right? So you can do that, right? So it's a good thing to come out and test those things in weather like that. If you have a new hat, see how it feels. I've had this hat out when it's minus double digits without the layer underneath, okay? Like, I got this layer. I've had it out like this, and I don't like it. It's synthetic. I like the hat, and I like the way that it comes down like this, that I can have it up and I can have it down. I think it's called the Ushanka hat, kind of a Russian design. I like this style of hat, and I like this one, and it's hunter's orange, so I can, you know, wear it for that sort of thing. But because of the material, right, I just don't find it works well in terms of sweating, moisture, comfort, and all that sort of stuff, and warmth. So by simply putting, and I've learned this from doing this sort of experimental stuff where it doesn't matter. You know, if you go out with your buddies for a day and you're trying out new gear, it may ruin your whole day. Your feet are cold all day, your hands are constantly going numb, your ears are miserable, right? I know if I have that thing on like this and I can put it, if it's really cold, I can put it over my ears. If it's not so cold, I can just put it halfway up my ears, whatever. But I know when I've got that little tiny thin layer between that hat and my head, it makes all the difference in the world for the minus double digit temperatures that I have. That is somewhere between minus 10, minus 20 sort of thing, right? Today, what I'm testing out is these new boots I've got. My mom, or not my mom, my wife found these hiking boots at Value Village. And for those that don't know what Value Village is, it's like a used stuff store in Canada, and you can get great deals. So she got me a pair of hiking shoes for $4. I don't think they're particularly high quality. I can't remember what the brand is. I think she Googled them. They're like Canadian Tire, which is like Canadian Walmart for cars and hunting and other stuff, right? So it's a department store, but it sort of focuses on outdoors stuff and car stuff. Anyway, she got these boots. Let me show you them here. Hiking shoes, hiking boots, or whatever. And they were size 13, which is my size, and they seem narrow enough. I had them out the last couple days. You have to be really, they're not very high, so they're kind of useless if you have to go through bogs and water and stuff like that, but they're very comfortable. They feel like a moccasin to walk in. I'm really happy with them. And they had enough room. I have orthotic inserts. They had enough room for me to put the orthotic inserts in, but just by coming out and being in the woods for an hour and a half, walking around over this, you know, sort of terrain with these on, I can get a sense of how useful they are. And I've determined that they're perfectly fine for 0 to minus 10, as long as you're not having to go through wet bog and stuff like that. I even have a kind of waterproof sock that can be stuck inside of these, which I've been using the last couple of days. But today it's so darn cold, I don't have to worry too much, as long as I'm careful. You can still, where I live, it doesn't matter how cold it is. There's bog areas where it never freezes. There's so much heat in the bog from the decomposition and all that sort of stuff. It's like a giant compost bin sort of thing, that there's little puddle type things that you step into and go right up to your knee. And that can be minus 20 Celsius and it's still not frozen. It might look like a tiny bit of ice and you step on it, or a little bit of moss, and you step on it and down you go. So you sort of have to learn how to walk through bogs and, you know, step on mounds and step on roots and just step near trees. You know, you have to be very judicious in your stepping in those environments, so you don't end up going up to your knee or up to your crotch in some, you know, black sort of Canadian quicksand sort of stuff. Anyway, trying out these today, and I can tell you my right foot is a little bit bigger than my left. It's about a half size. I have like a size 13 triple E foot. That's a pretty big foot, and it's hard to find stuff to fit. The right foot's a little bit bigger, and the right foot in the hour and a half that I've been out today is starting to go numb. Now I can manage it, I can wiggle it and stuff like that, and you know, if I'm moving around, I mean, it basically started getting cold when I started making this video because I'm not walking. But that just tells me that this is not a reliable boot for below minus 10 Celsius. It's okay for between 0 and 10. And it's a very comfortable hiking boot. That's why I like it. And you wrap it around nice and tight around my ankles and get good ankle support. But it's just not good for that. But I wouldn't know that if I wasn't putting in the time. And it's really useful on really cold days to get out for an hour or two and try your cold gear and see how it works, see if there's ways you need to modify it, and so on and so forth. I think this brand of boot, if I had it a size bigger, it would probably be fine, because I could put another, I have 2 wool socks on in these. If I just had 1 wool sock, it would be a bit looser. The tighter a shoe is, the less able your feet are to sort of maintain the circulation. So you can have a perfectly warm boot, but if you have it on tight, it can actually ruin the circulation, just like the finger of that trigger mitten did to my index finger, right? Just from being constricted, right? It's just cut off the circulation and it couldn't stay warm. So that's the thing here. My left foot feels fine, and my right foot, the pinky toe and the toe next to the pinky toe and the toe next to that have all gone semi-numb. So I know if I was going to go out for the day with a buddy hunting or whatever, and it was below minus 10, these would be the wrong things to wear. They just wouldn't do it. I've got as many socks as I can put inside of these right now and have them not be super tight. I can still wiggle my feet, which is good. And just by wiggling them, it's helping a little bit. But I know this is not the ideal boot for extremely cold day. Anyway, just some thoughts on testing out gear and taking advantage of those extreme sort of weather conditions. I mean, today is an extreme in the broader scope of things, but it's, you know, it's colder than normal. I think they said on the news today that it was the coldest January day in 2 years or something like that. So certainly it gets colder. And February tends to be the coldest month here. But anyway, it's still useful to get out on those days and just see, especially if you've got new gear, just to see what it's made of. Even if you're just going out for a walk, right? Just to put your gear through its paces and to see if it's going to do the thing you think it's going to do. I know that these are not the boots for the minus double digits if I'm going out for any more than an hour, right? I also have on, this is a new wool jacket that I got for Christmas, also from Valley Village. These things, this here thing, I think my wife got it for like 20 bucks. And when we looked up the brand, these are like, they don't make them anymore, but something like this would be like $140. Pure wool, right? Beautiful. And in great shape. Probably, you know, from someone's grandfather or something. Anyway, all I have on, even though it's like minus 12 or minus 13, is this, another wool sweater, a really, really thin cotton waffle shirt, and an undershirt, right? Just nothing. Super thin sort of tank top type deal, right? That's all I've got on in this weather. And I mean, sure, when you're walking, you can strip down to nothing, but I've been standing around here making this video for about 15 minutes. You get cold when you're standing around. Totally fine, right? So I wanted to give this a good test just to see what it feels like. I know that if I'm going out for a whole day, that this jacket plus another wool layer and just sort of a liner underneath, like a long sleeve underwear shirt sort of thing, is all I need, right? To be perfectly fine during the day at this temperature. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell if you want to be notified when I make a new video. Until next time, enjoy the outdoors on the Jeep. Thanks for watching.